Welcome, everyone, to Live with Sara and Tasha. I am Sara, the founder and CEO at Live Well Exercise Clinic, with my twin, because we are wearing the same
Oh,
outfits
no.
today, not on purpose, but
I
very
love it.
fitting. I know.
I I am Tasha McRae. I'm our VP of Brand and Culture here at Live Well. And together, Sara and I are Live Well's original clinical exercise physiologist and health coaches. And we're just really excited that you decided to join us today. Sara and I host these Sara and Tasha live calls to just share our passion for the power of exercise and behavior change that can help you really live your life to the fullest.
And at the end of our discussion today, for those of you who are joining us live, we will have a Q&A time with you and a little bit of a chat. So feel free to stay on after our session today for that. So without further ado, what is our topic today, Tasha?
All right, exercise in the cold, because if you're joining us from some portion of Canada here, winter is coming. For those of you who are, I actually didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I don't know what that means really, but the cold weather is definitely coming. And at this time of year, what we tend to see is that people's overall physical activity decreases. And that's because that leisure time exercise that they were doing outside goes down. People
Mhm.
are less likely to sort of take forms of active transport. And in turn, we like to snuggle up on the couch and stay warm, and our sedentary behavior goes up. So today we really wanted to talk to you about how to keep going during the winter months, because our exercise has some sort of unique seasonal benefits, including the ability to be able to ward off those winter blues. So, exercise is proven to help people combat a low mood, and it's being investigated as a treatment for people who are suffering from SAD, or seasonal affective disorder. And we've long known, and Sara and I see it at the clinic all the time, that exercise has this kind of antidepressant like effect for people. And some studies show that in fact, it's just as effective as light therapy, which is a cornerstone in SAD treatment. So, aerobic exercise, that exercise where you're getting out there and getting your heart pumping, is what we feel likely has the most benefit. So, trying to, let's say, either exercise in a gym if you're finding that it's too cold to be outside. But if you like being outside, even on those cloudy days, there is an extra benefit from getting out and getting that natural light along with your dose of exercise. So we see an increase in mood, but you might also find that you get an increase in energy levels from exercising. And we know that our energy can dip in the winter. So exercise can be a great way to combat that as well. So, you want to be healthy and happy and energetic this winter. And so making sure that you're getting in that minimum of 150 minutes a week can really help you do that.
And I think that we can all relate to, just yesterday, I thought that it was bedtime. It was dark out, it was rainy, it was cold. I had on my warm reading socks that I think you probably got me for Christmas, Tasha. I had my warm tea and I thought, oh, it must be just about bedtime. I'm excited to snuggle in. And I looked and it was 6 o'clock in the evening. So, but if it had been the summer, I think about in the summer, you and I were out on the beach walking at 8:30 sometimes in the evening, no problem because of the light and the energy and everything. So it's funny how everything shifts between kind of the summer months and the winter months. And I think that we can probably all relate to that.
For
And
sure.
so, yeah. So we encourage you, of course, to stay active and exercising all year long. Again, we know and believe that exercise is medicine. So making sure that you get your dose of medicine every year of the week is just as important. So that means that we can't really let the cold weather stop us from exercising. That doesn't mean that we have to love the cold. Again, that is where we live in a part of the world where we are lucky enough to have beautiful fitness facilities to go into and to stay active in a warmer, drier environment. But saying that, if you are outside, there are a few precautions that we must consider, and we wanted to make sure that we go over that with you. So first of all, exercise is safe for almost everyone, even in the cold weather. So really important to note. This is especially important if you have conditions such as asthma, heart problems, or Raynaud's disease. So I think it's really important for us to specifically, and Tasha and I, with a background in cardiac rehab, we used to have these conversations really, really often around what is appropriate and not appropriate to be doing in these cold months, because our body responds differently when the temperature that we're breathing into our body is colder air. And in fact, it constricts our vessels. So you think of your body's reaction when it's cold, we go like this. We even physically pull inwards. Our vessels are doing the exact same thing. I actually remember our, who I would have called kind of a mentor and Tash and I's boss in cardiac rehab, a lady named Kathy. She actually looked at emergency room admissions in Fraser Health on cold first snowfall days when people were out snow shoveling. And she looked at the incidence of people coming into emergency with chest pain. And it was, I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was something like 10 times more than on a non-first snowfall day type of thing, meaning that a lot of people were going out there and in the cold weather exerting themselves. So if we can really picture that, if our vessels are constricting and becoming smaller, and of course, when people have atherosclerosis, or kind of that sludge building up in their vessels that prevents the blood flow and everything, and our blood has oxygen in it and so forth, if that's already being kind of slowing down the blood flow, constricting the vessel even more is making that blood flow even less, therefore the flow of oxygen even less. So if you can imagine somebody out there on a cold day, the constricting of the vessels due to atherosclerosis, the constricting of the vessels due to the cold is now an additive effect, and is something that we want to be really, really cautious of. And it can be a big concern in those very, very cold days. So there are some precautions we can take to keep ourselves safe and healthy. And I encourage you to share these with your loved ones, because they are some simple things that we can do, but I actually think that many of them can really prevent some adverse health situations arising, especially again on those days of first snowfall or so forth. So the first one is that if you are outside doing any type of activity, warm up a little longer and a little bit slower. Give your body more time to acclimate to the colder weather. Gradually increasing the demands on your heart rather than kind of shocking it into exercise will actually help to protect your heart, especially in the cold. But of course, at any time of the year, we always want to be doing a warm up, but just making sure in the winter you are long and slow warm up. Oftentimes, because it's cold out, we have this feeling like we want to just power into it, and I want to warm up as fast as I can. And as much as we want to probably warm our body temperature as fast as we can, we need to slowly warm our cardiorespiratory system. And another one is cover your mouth. So in fact, covering your mouth, whether that be with a turtleneck or a scarf or a, what's the thing called when you go skiing, Tasha? The
balaclava.
Balaclava.
But more importantly, most of us have lots of masks at home.
True, right? I actually, it's a funny thing because like last winter, I remembered I had like quite a thick mask on, and I really appreciated how much it would warm my face up. I'd find myself not really taking my mask off, even walking outdoors when we didn't have to be wearing masks outdoors. I was like, no, I really quite like this mask on, keeping my face nice and warm. And then as the spring hit, I remember thinking, why am I always so hot in my mask? And I realized it's because I still had this big, thick winter mask on. So now we need masks for all seasons. Who knew what it would come to? But covering your mouth, this just allows for us to warm the air as it's actually coming in, right? So if you think about it, as you're breathing through a mask, it is warming before it does get to your lungs and so forth. So this is particularly important for people who have angina or chest pain, or people who even suffer from frequent upper respiratory infections, because it will help to warm the air as it enters your system. Our other tip is dress in layers. So if you dress in one warm layer and you start sweating, once you slow down and that sweat dries, you become a bit chilled. Has anyone ever experienced that? You go out, you sweat a little in the cold, you can become quite chilled. I definitely have experienced that.
All the time when I'm mountain biking, Sarah. You climb and you climb and you climb, then you get to the top. Now you're going to go downhill where there's all that wind, and maybe even you've got an elevation gain. And so it's been recommended to me to actually bring a change of clothes to be able to at least take the shirt off, so your core is you can stay dry there.
Yeah, really, really good point. So dressing in lots of layers, even if they're thinner layers, is actually better than maybe just a t-shirt and a really, really thick sweater, because it allows us to kind of take some layers off and then to slowly put layers on as we need them again. And stay hydrated. We actually can be more dehydrated in these winter months than we are in the summer months, because in the summer months, there's something in us that is saying, drink water, drink water, drink water. But in the winter months, our bodies still need just as much water. And in fact, the cold air can dehydrate you. So ensure that you drink enough water when you're exercising, even though it's the winter.
For sure. And the other thing that unfortunately, that this kind of time of year brings us is cold and flu season. And, I've been hearing rumors, this is not, I haven't gone in and checked the scientific facts on this one, but that, last year we kind of escaped the cold and flu season. Like it seemed like nobody got colds, nobody got flus. We were all hunkered down in our houses. But this year, they do predict that we might be a little bit more susceptible because we have been so kind of cocooned and isolated. So a good time for us to talk about, colds and flus or sickness, and when is it safe to exercise and when is it not? And a general rule is that it's safe to exercise if your symptoms are above your neck. So if you've got sniffles or you're sneezing or you have a runny nose, or, you have a tickle in your throat, but it's not like a raging sore throat, then even though you might not feel like exercising, it's likely very safe for you to do so. If you have something that's a little bit more systemic, like you're running a fever, or that there's an active infection that maybe you're taking antibiotics for, or you have a chest cold, or, the shakes and things like that, or body aches from the flu, not worth it. Take the time to just relax and rest up. A fever is a big it's the number one thing that I ask everybody when they're going, I just feel under the weather, but I came to exercise today. This was prior to COVID, right? Nobody comes to exercise anymore if you're feeling the slightest bit under the weather, at least in clinic. But can you go out and exercise on your own, or exercise over using, video live stream? You certainly can, unless, again, you have that fever? And that's always the first question I ask. Are you running a fever? Even a mild fever can impair our body's ability to thermoregulate during exercise. So, that your temperature is already rising. Well, as Sara said, you rise your temperature when you're exercising. And so that can just sort of overwhelm your body's system to cool yourself. And then, of course, chest congestion can just make it difficult to breathe. And that leads to an increased heart rate and a whole cascade of effects. So if you've got some chest congestion, it's best to wait it out. So I know that my dad always had this philosophy of, you're sick, you go out there and you run it out, and he does it himself. And I keep warning him that is a very, very foolish thing to do. Because it can, in fact, be dangerous. If you have some sort of viral load, that virus can actually attack your heart. So we want to be really careful there when you're running a fever. So if you do catch the common cold this year and the symptoms are above the neck, go ahead and exercise. But you want to maybe take those first few days at a lower intensity. So take it easy on yourself. You probably don't feel like exercising, but a light walk can just sort of pump up that immunity a little bit. We know there's a link between exercise and immunity, and it might, in fact, speed up your recovery. But going out there really hard and doing vigorous exercise can actually decrease your immunity. So, you want to make sure that you're feeling well before you take on anything vigorous. So get out there, do a couple of days of light activity. As you get through those first few days and your symptoms start to improve, you can start to put in more moderate intensity work, and then wait until you're fully recovered to get sort of that really hard work or vigorous intensity in.
Awesome. Well, those are our tips to help to keep you safe in the cold and to make sure that you can keep up your exercising and to help you to live well this winter and this coming week. We thank you for joining us today on Sara and Tasha Live, and we wish you sweat and smiles all week long. Thank you for joining us today.